Hi, I'm Allie. Join me as I show you how to do these sea crystal earrings. They are a beautiful collection of mermaid glass and some Potomac crystals that you can do really in a number of different ways. I did in SuperDuos too to show you how to use that multi-hole and kind of close up a right angle weave unit. If you want any supplies, go ahead and look below the video in the description. There's always a link there to get back to our site to check everything out. I'm always drawn to blue, but you can do these in any mermaid color or really anything at all if you want to do a little pearl or jazz it up. Make sure to watch also to see how you can go in and alternate it by adding something different. Gather up your materials and let's get started. So to begin these sea crystal earrings here, you can see that I have 4 of my SuperDuo beads along with 4 6mm mermaid glass. Obviously you can use anything. And then a Sea Luster Drop Bead, and this is a pear drop. The size is 18 by 13 millimeter, so any really bead can do. We have some gorgeous new check glass Picasso cut, and I'm doing the start, and I'll show you how to do the drop and everything in between. We're starting off with 4 of our 6mm mermaid glass, along with 3 11-0 beads in between. I also have 15-0s here, and I'm using a size 10 needle along with some size 8 crystal dragon thread. I have on my thread and needle here a total of 3 11-0 beads between each one of my 6mm mermaid glass. And I'm going to tie that into a knot. You can see here I have 1 seed bead on one side and 1 on the other, just because it happened to drop off. And I'm sewing that on and giving a nice tight pull. You can use a stop bead if you want to, but not necessary. From here, I'm going to sew back through the 2 beads since that was my start. And then I want to come out through my first 11-0 bead in my next group of 3 seed beads. What we're going to do is around the circle, we are going to skip the middle bead and we're going to pull these beads a little closer together. So you're going from bead 1 to bead number 3 of the 11-0 beads, skipping over then to the next 6mm mermaid glass. And if you can at the same time, it's nice to go through that first 11-0 on the opposite side, or the next side, I should say. Kind of pull that tight and push, if you can, that middle bead out to point a corner there. Skipping over that middle bead, going into bead number 3, into the 6mm mermaid glass, into the next 11-0 bead. And once again, give a nice tight pull. Pull that center bead out towards the outer edge. And see how that's forming little corners? We're going to do that 4 times, coming through back to the original side. And make sure each time you can take your needle and just kind of pull that bead out a little bit. And pop it out to the corner. From here then, coming out through, so I'm going from bead number 1 to bead number 3 here along the corner. I only have to do this once, which is nice because it's tight. And once you're through there, what I want you to do is come out through your 6mm bead. So not through any beads, just out through the 6. I'm going to bring this camera in because the mermaid glass along with the sea beads and the light colors can be a little reflective and hard to see. All right, so pulling that in and making sure, again, that middle bead kind of pops towards the outside. We are going to go around the outer edge here and add in some 15-0 beads. 2 15-0 beads get added in, and you're sewing through that middle second bead that sits in the center of those 3 beads that we originally put on between all of our 6mm beads. 2 beads go on after and through the next 6mm bead and out. Once again, 2 go on through the next bead here. And now what I'm going to do on my second corner is I'm actually going to add my drop here. So to add my drop along the center, I'm coming out of that center 11-0 bead, and you're going to add 1, 2, and 3 more of your blue 11-0s. So back through the blue bead that your thread is currently coming out of. That's going to give you a right angle weave unit. A little picot trim there. Sew down through the next bead, bead number 1 out of those 3 you added. Bead number 2. When you're out bead number 2, add 1 and 2 more 11-0 beads. go into your drop. Now you're going to notice that the drop, when you look at it, it kind of almost sits like that, like a V at the top. So if your 15 O's go in between that hole because it's a little bit bigger, don't worry about it. Out the bottom, we're going to add a picot trim, which is 3 beads. So back up through that bigger pear crystal. Pull it all up next to those 15 O seed beads. When you're coming out the 15 O seed beads there, add 1 and 2 more 15s. And so into the opposite side of the 11 O that your thread is currently coming out of. Once you do so, that teardrop will hang nice and centered. Go through the third 11 O seed bead that was there that we just put on in that group of 3. Go through that middle 11 O seed bead from the original set of 3. Add 2 more 15s. And then over through the next 6 millimeter bead. Once you're through the next 6 millimeter bead, exit through that 6 millimeter bead, add 2 more 15s, go through the center 11 O that sits in the corner, add 2 more of your 15 O beads, sorry, I said 11, I think, back through that 6 millimeter bead, and that's going to bring us out what is going to be our top of our piece. Now the top of our piece, we're going to mimic basically the opposite side that we did here. Going into the middle bead, first we're going to add 1 and 2 of our 15s. So into just that middle bead there. And once you're into just that middle bead, kind of pulling it up away from its brother there, you're going to bring your needle and thread out. Instead of 3 beads, we're going to add 1 bead. We're going to add our wire guard. We're going to go down through the opposite side of the wire guard, adding another one of our 11 O seed beads, and then back through again that middle 11 O that our thread was coming out of. Now you can go the whole way around the piece, obviously, and then add the wire guard and the bottom crystal after the fact. I'm just doing it now because it saves time. 2 more 15s go on, and you're going to go through your next 6 millimeter bead. Give a nice tight pull to get rid of any slack in the thread that you may see. And then I want to show you that this is also just a pretty little earring. Now we're going to go in, tighten it up, and add in our SuperDuos as we go around, another time catching on to the 6 millimeter beads. As you're coming out of this 6O mermaid glass, now we're going to add a 15, a SuperDuo, and a 15, and sew into the next mermaid glass. We're going to go around to all of the 4 corners and do so. And what that's going to allow us to do is kind of concentrate the middle. It almost looks patchworky. In goes a 15, SuperDuo 15, from one 6 millimeter bead over to the next. There's side 2, side 3, over to the next 6. You can see I'm just spinning around. I kind of push the 6O seed beads down, or 6O beads, sorry. The seed beads around the 6 millimeter beads down, because they'll get to the back a little bit more as we go in and pull these SuperDuos to the front. Once you have those on, you're going through that next 6 millimeter bead that your thread was originally coming out of, pulling that nice and tight. We're going to go from our 15O through our SuperDuo, so the 15O that sits next to the SuperDuo. Our thread's coming out the SuperDuo. We're going to reverse it, going from the exterior to the interior hole of the SuperDuo. We're going to pull these in really tight here. To pull them in tight, we are going to use a 15, an 11, and a 15. And that's going to be the same thing the whole way around the project. I'm going to grab a couple more of my 11s out. Beautiful denim blue color. 15, 11, 15. You're going to your next SuperDuo bead. Same thing over and over. Now, you don't need to pull it this tight. If you'd rather keep it open a little bit wider, you can use different beads too. It's up to you. I'm Going back into that same SuperDuo that my thread was originally coming out of. I'm going through the first collection of seed beads, that 15, 11, 15. I'm going to pull that nice and tight to kind of tighten up that piece and really pull it in towards the middle. From here, I want you to go through your next 15 and 11 and exit after the blue 11. We're going to add one more 11 and sew through the next blue 11. Add a blue 11, sew through the one that's already there. So you're actually doing somewhat of a peyote stitch here. Another blue 11 through the one that's already there. It's almost like a netting. Wants to go through the 15 through just the 11. All right, once you're through that one more gets added back through the original 11. And then I'm also stepping up into the first blue 11 that I added in this new group of 4. Give a nice tight pull. Stop bead out of the way. And now we're going to sew through just all of the 4 blue 11s that we added last. And that's going to bring that little center right to the center. And you can see when we do that, that forces those seed beads to kind of sit out a little bit, the SuperDuos to pull up, and just tightens everything nice and set. From here, after you go around one full time connecting all of those interior 11O seed beads, we're going to drop down through one of the 11s that sits before the SuperDuo along with the 15. Go ahead and go through one of the SuperDuos through that interior hole. Skip to the exterior of the SuperDuo. Go in down through the 15 and into the 6mm bead. Now, if you want to at this point, I'm going to kind of turn it over, wiggle it through, and bring my thread and needle out through that 6mm mermaid glass. If you want, you can see that it kind of wants to go through the seed beads there. This is a good time if you want to reinforce that drop and reinforce the wire guard. You can certainly do that now. Take note of where your starter thread is. I'm going to sew through all of the 6mm beads till I get back to the top. And you can see I'm not even adding any beads. I'm just taking the thread right around. If you want to, you can go through those 2 11Os. I'm just taking the thread right around because nobody will see it along the back, up to the top here, pushing that thread towards the back. Once I get to the top, taking my thread and needle and tying my current thread to that original thread end that I tied the original loop. And that is it. You'll have a curvature with those mermaid glass beads. Once you have all of that, you can separate out the threads, or because you have this silver 15Os, you're really not going to see if you burn down the thread ends right here along the back. Grab your ear wire, pick that up. I'm going to burn that back a little bit more. Pick up your ear wire, grab some pliers, open up the ear wire by pulling it to the side, put on your wire guard, close up your ear wire, matching it back to where it was. I'm going to go back in here, burn down that thread end a little bit more with my nice shaky coffee hand, flat against the project. Da-da-da. Nice, simple earrings that have a beautiful shine. They're not too heavy. You can use this same pattern, you can see, to do a bracelet if you want to connect them, and really just a nice, soft, shimmery shine. Thanks so much for joining me in creating these sea crystal earrings. They're really a great use of 6mm beads. Throw in a couple SuperDuo beads to pull it towards the middle and hang down whatever you want. I had mentioned that we have some beautiful Picasso beads. You don't even need to hang down anything if you don't want to as well, or link them together for a bracelet. That would be awesome to show other people in our Facebook group for beading and jewelry making. As always, if you haven't yet, hit that little subscribe button. And if you need any materials, look at the links below the video in the description. Thanks so much for watching, and stay tuned for more inspirational designs.